13. Huge Coronation Street spoilers you need to know. February 24th to 27th, 2025. Next week on Coronation Street, secrets explode, alliances shift, and lives hang in the balance. Daisy finally reveals the father of her baby, but the truth might shock you. Meanwhile, Cassie's manipulation of Ken takes a dangerous turn, and Dylan's fate is decided as his court date looms. You won't want to miss these 13 massive moments that will shake the cobbles. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss the latest Corrie spoilers and updates. Now, let's break down everything coming up next week. 1. Daisy reveals the truth. Daisy's feeling the heat as she keeps her DNA test results under wraps, and when an au pair job in Paris pops up, running away starts to seem tempting. But after a heart-to-heart with Jenny, she makes a big decision. It's time to come clean to Daniel and Kit about who the real father of her baby is. 2. Daisy is overwhelmed. With the truth finally out, the tension in the air is impossible to ignore. Daniel and Kit are left reeling, trying to wrap their heads around what this all means. Emotions are running high, and while one tries to stay level-headed, the other can't help but feel completely blindsided. Trust has been shaken, and with so much uncertainty ahead, neither of them knows quite how to move forward from this bombshell. Meanwhile, Daisy's dealing with her own struggles. She might have finally come clean, but that doesn't mean the weight on her shoulders has lifted. At her 12-week scan, the pressure of everything she's been holding in starts to bubble over. It's meant to be a moment of reassurance, a chance to see her baby, but instead, it all becomes too much. Overwhelmed, she makes a sharp exit, unable to face it all at once. 3. Cassie covers her tracks. Cassie receives a text informing her that her new iPad is on the way, but quickly hides the message from Steve. Later, Cassie learns that Fizz is going into town to go shopping and asks her to pick up some more antihistamines. 4. Ken grows suspicious of Cassie continues scamming Ken by ordering 2 new designer juicers using his bank details. Meanwhile, Steve invites Cassie for lunch at the bistro, and Cassie is thrilled that their relationship is progressing. However, it looks like Cassie's luck may be beginning to run out as Ken grows suspicious about her behaviour. When Ken pretends that he's fallen asleep, Cassie quickly nips out and Ken springs to life. 5. Ken is rushed to hospital. Steve's got a lot on his mind, and for once, it's not just the usual chaos of life on the street. As he waits at the bistro, he opens up to Amy, admitting he's caught feelings he wasn't expecting. It's one thing to have a laugh and a bit of a flirt, but this feels different, and now he's wondering if he's got himself in too deep. With everything that's happened recently, it's hardly the easiest situation, and the big question is, does he actually stand a chance? Or is he setting himself up for another round of heartache? Meanwhile, over at number 1, things take a worrying turn. Ken, ever the strong-willed one, suddenly finds himself in real trouble, reaching for the phone before being hit with pain that stops him in his tracks. It's not long before he's in hospital, recovering but vulnerable. And that's when Cassie makes her move. She turns up at his bedside, but the real question is, why? Is she there out of genuine concern, or is her web of lies starting to unravel? 6. Betsy tries to reassure Dylan. Betsy overhears Dylan confessing his fears to Sean about getting sent to the STC, and she tries to lift his spirits by urging him to stay positive. Dylan remains convinced that he'll get sent down, and Betsy promises to visit if that's the case. When she leans in for a kiss, Dylan kisses her back. 7. Dylan is sentenced. Dylan becomes emotional in court and admits that he only meant to scare Mason's brothers with the knife. The judge is unsympathetic and tells Dylan that he should be facing the more serious charge of making threats with a knife. Sean and Dylan are horrified by the turn of events, and Adam warns Dylan that a 2-year sentence in the STC isn't out of the question. Later, the judge delivers Dylan's sentence. 8. Dylan is targeted. In the STC, Daniel checks in on Dylan to see how he's coping, but their exchange is noticed by one of the other inmates, Brody. Brody quizzes Dylan on his relationship with Daniel and warns him to keep the connection secret. After receiving abuse from some of the other inmates, Dylan is rescued by Brody, who tells them to back off and suggests Dylan stick with him. 9. Kevin struggles after his surgery. Ronnie's just trying to do a good deed, offering to take Alfie out for a bit, but it only leaves Kevin feeling more frustrated. He'd love to go along, get out of the house and feel a bit more like himself again, but Abby's quick to remind him that he needs to take it easy after his operation. It's not what he wants to hear. He's never been one to sit back while everyone else cracks on, and being stuck on the sidelines is starting to wear thin. Things only get worse when Ronnie steps in to help around the house, sorting out a wonky kitchen cupboard for Abby without a second thought. It's a small thing, really, but to Kevin, it feels like yet another reminder of how useless he is right now. He's always been the one to fix things, to look after his own, and seeing someone else step into that role is a hard pill to swallow. The frustration's bubbling away, and it won't take much more to push him over the edge. 10. Kevin receives another setback. Kevin's day goes from bad to worse when yet more bad news lands in his lap, and it's clear he's struggling to keep it together. Abby, always the one to step up when things get tough, offers to skip her therapy to be there for him, but he's having none of it. The last thing he wants is for her to put her own progress on hold just to babysit him. He's already feeling like a burden, and the thought of dragging her down with him only makes it worse. Instead of accepting help, he shuts her out, convincing himself he just needs to deal with it on his own. But bottling things up never ends well, and when Tim tries to lend a hand, Kevin's frustration boils over. He lashes out, not because he's angry at Tim, but because he's angry at himself and the way things are going. Meanwhile, Abby's opening up to Ronnie about her therapy, finding some much-needed support. But just as she's starting to feel a bit of relief, Kevin walks in, catches them laughing, and jumps to all the wrong conclusions. Instead of sticking around to hear what's really going on, he storms off, letting his insecurities get the better of him yet again. 11. David lies to Shona. David lies to Shona that he's decided to do some home visit haircuts to make extra money, but as soon as Shona leaves, David calls Andy. Later, Andy pays David for his latest criminal job, and David admits that he's willing to do as many jobs as possible. David is unaware as Andy gives the nod to a lad nearby, who has been watching the exchange. 12. Todd has another encounter with Julie. Todd spends the night with the guy he met at the recent singles event in the hotel, and is surprised to see Julie at the hotel reception. Later in the week, Eileen persuades Julie to join her for lunch. Having discovered the real reason behind Julie's return, Todd and George urge her to tell Eileen the truth. 13. Carla returns home. Carla's finally back home after everything she's been through, but the moment she steps through the door, it's clear things aren't quite how she hoped. Ryan and Betsy are there to welcome her back, doing their best to lift her spirits, but there's one person missing: Lisa. After everything that's happened, Carla was counting on a familiar face to help her feel some sense of normality again, but instead, she's left with an uneasy feeling that something's not right. As much as she tries to hide it, the disappointment is written all over her face. She's been through the ringer, and all she wants is a bit of reassurance. But it seems like the people she was expecting to lean on aren't there when she needs them most. It's another knock when she's already feeling vulnerable, and no matter how much Ryan and Betsy try to fill the gap, there's no shaking the feeling that things have shifted in a way she wasn't prepared for. And that's a wrap on next week's Coronation Street spoilers. It's shaping up to be a week full of shocks, drama, and emotional showdowns, so make sure you don't miss a moment. What do you think about Daisy's big reveal? And is Cassie finally about to get caught out? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for all the latest Corrie updates. And of course, tap that notification bell so you're always the first to know what's coming next on the Cobbles. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.